Pink stucco tower scraping the sky. They built a glass paradise way too high. Then the bubble pop, the silent sound of foreclosure signs are all over town. I got a bad loan, the promise they believe. Now the dream is over, they're feeling deceived. I watch from the sidelines, patient and cool, playing by a different set of rules. All I wanna do is and love and do is take the window. All I wanna do is and I'll cash your heart and watch the funds grow. This is straight up capitalism. Chick, chick, boom, sweeping up the pieces with the concrete boom. Wanna do, wanna do, wanna do. Get a call from my contact, a whisper on the phone. Another empty unit, the speculator is gone. He says a shame with a crocodile tear as he sells me their future for a fraction of last year. The paperwork's easy, a cash only deal. That heartbreak and panic is my next big steal. They get a cardboard box, I get the ocean view. It's nothing personal, it's just what I do. And a casual body, take your condo. And a casual body and watch the dance floor. This is straight up capitalism. Chick, chick, boom, sweeping up the pieces with the concrete broom. When I do wrong, when I do wrong, when I do. Some myself ask for a quick return. Some I rent out, let the lesson burn. They call it a crisis, I call it a sale. In this concrete jungle, the strongest prevail. No funny business, I am the business. They sold you a lead, now I'm the witness. Seek your condo.
Happy Thursday, Miami. This is Condo Capitalism, a look at the distress real estate market in South Florida, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. That's what we do every Thursday at 4 o'clock. We're talking distress condos. However, making an exception this week. Why? Because next week is the 5-year anniversary of that tragedy that occurred on the Barrier Island, Miami-Dade County, the Surfside condo collapse when the Champlain Towers South went down 24th of June, 2021, 136 units, 12-story building collapsed. Nearly 100 people died. A $1 billion settlement was ultimately paid out to the families of the victims. State of Florida condo market changed forever. So did, I would argue, the nation's condo market. Why? Because a lot of the changes implemented in Florida have resonated and spread throughout the country. So we're looking back 5 years to that tragedy, that horrible event that ultimately, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of changes. So in anticipation of next week's anniversary, what we've been doing is diving in and taking a look at what is the combination of modern units versus vintage units on the Barrier Island of Miami-Dade County. Yesterday, I should say, we did Sunny Isles Beach. Part of that, we were taking a look at Miami Beach. Today, we're going to take a look at that market of Bell Harbor, Surfside, Bay Harbor Islands. It is a zip code of 33154. That's what we'll be getting in today. We're going to tell you what the market's like up there in that Barrier Island area, which is going to be from 87th Terrace. Miami Beach is to the south, 87th Terrace to the north is Surfside. Then you go all the way north to Haulover Inlet. That'll be the Atlantic Ocean west to Biscayne Bay or the inner coastal. We're going to take a look. We're going to do a deep dive. We're going to tell you what percentage of the condos that exist in that area, which percentage are vintage. These are the condos that are at least 30 years old or older. These are the ones under greater scrutiny because of what happened 5 years ago next week. We're also going to take a look at what's going on with the modern condos. We'll tell you what the pricing is. We'll tell for both modern as well as vintage units. Remember, 30 years old or older, we call them vintage. Why do we call them vintage? Because at year 30, they have to do a special inspection called a milestone inspection. Every 10 years now in Florida, as a result of Surfside, an inspection has to be done. It's called the Structural Integrity Reserve Study, or SIRS. Year 30, you got to do a milestone inspection. And if you have to do a milestone inspection, we call you vintage. Basically a nice name for an older type of product. And by the way, vintage condos, these are the ones that all the buyers want. Why do they want them? They want them because they're about 40% less asking price per square foot, going after a vintage condos, 30 years old or older, versus the overall broader market. So that's one reason people like them. Another reason they like them is that the locations tend to be better than a lot of the new stuff being built today. Why? Because these towers were put up back in or before 1996. A lot more land to choose from. The other aspect as to why people are chasing after these vintage condos increasingly is that the square footage is much more accommodating. If you look at a condo today, a one bedroom is going to be about 700, maybe 750 square feet. Two bedrooms, 1,000. What were they back then? In the vintage units, 1,200 square feet for a one bed, 2,000 square feet for a two bed. So as a result of what's going on right now, with condo living basically being a necessity, basically being a utility, many buyers are opting for vintage condos. Now, why would you go into a vintage condo? Because just like people buy a used car, today we call them a pre-owned car, and they get certified and they get fixed up. These inspections now are coming with a report that's signed by a licensed architect, licensed engineer. Think of the same concept of a car, get it certified, it's pre-owned. That's what's going on with these condos, and as a result, buyers are willing to go in because sellers are on the hook to cover all of the special assessments coming down the pike based on our guesstimate. When a condo's getting up to the 30-year mark, the milestone inspection, you're probably looking at a special assessment if that building's up to 4 stories. Looking at about $25,000 a door. If the building's 5 to 14 stories, call that $65,000 per unit. And then if it's 15 stories or more, call it a $100,000 special assessment. That is being increasingly eaten by the sellers. Why would they be eating because the condo supply is growing. There's an affordability issue. We got a problem with mortgage rates, 6.5% and higher. Real difficult now to live in a condo and own a condo. Much easier, much cheaper to rent a condo, and this is basically creating a disconnect. So as buyers go ahead and they take a look at the market, and I recommend they lowball, sellers are getting a little anxious because the cost of condo living has gone up extensively, especially if these buyers bought in 2021, 2022, 2023. That is when people moved to town. They flooded into the market. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis allowed people to come into Florida and you didn't have to wear a mask. Remember the pandemic, remember COVID. People had to wear a mask in blue state. Florida said, no, you don't have to. You could also work from home. Companies were allowing you to work from home. So what better place to come than Florida, and especially South Florida? And then if you went to Miami Beach, they permitted you to twerk on police cars. We all remember the video footage of that, but basically those were go-go days of 2021, 2022, 2023. Many of those buyers are having a lot of regrets right now because they've been called back to the office. They're trying to sell. The rent is nowhere near covering the cost. And as a result, they are looking to exit. At the same time, people are feeling the squeeze of all of the requirements that were put in place as a result of what happened 5 years ago. Next week, Surfside condo collapse. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investment Club. Every weekday at 4 o'clock, I go live and we're talking condos. On Thursdays, got Condo Capitalism. We talk about the distressed condo market. Not doing it again this week. We're talking about what is the stock of condos in that market of 33154, which is a zip code that's going to include Bell Harbor, Surfside, Bay Harbor Islands. We're taking a look. We're doing a deep dive. Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? Well, we pulled data from the state of Florida. We're putting together this summer. We're putting together our condo ratings agency. We are going to be rating condo associations based on economic stability, economic feasibility, economic viability. We'll be able to tell you, is this condo well run? A lot of people like to say location, location, location. I like to say, take that mantra, throw it out, and focus on the age of the building, the age of the building, the age of the building. So, 4 o'clock weekdays, we do a podcast. Mondays, I do Miami Condo. Mondays with my partner, Jenny Huertas, CVR Realty. Check out our website, cvrrealty.com. She's got a team specializes in vintage condos. These are the ones everybody's chasing after. Got to understand it. You got to know how it works. Tuesday, we do the Miami Condo Exchange. That is a statistical deep dive of what's going on in the condo market. We created on January 1st, 2025 in anticipation of what we call the Florida Condo Association Financial Cliff. We created a series of indices. We are tracking active listings, pending sales, put it together, give you an idea as to where we are going week over week over week in South Florida. If you compare it to Wall Street, if you take a look at Wall Street, you're going to all know the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Russell. You all heard about them. Well, those indices, they tell you, they give you insight. They suggest where we're going to be 6 months in the future. If you want to know where we were, you look at unemployment numbers. So when you look at Wall Street, unemployment numbers tell you about the past, and the indices tell you about the future. What do we do in real estate, especially on the condo market? We look at closed sales. Closed sales are great to tell you about where we were in the past. A lot of times, closed sales numbers, when they come out at the end of a quarter, they have to be processed. So you might be looking at data that's from 30, 60, 90, 120 days ago. What good is that? Well, it'll tell you where we were, but it doesn't tell you where we are today. So with our indices, and we do South Florida, we do Miami-Dade, we do Broward County, we do Palm Beach County. We also have an additional 19 markets going from Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, all the way north to West Palm Beach and Palm Beach Island, so we can get a sense of which markets are in play and which markets are not. So we talk about that on Tuesday, Miami Condo Exchange podcast. Wednesday, I do the Peter Zalewski Show, one-on-one conversation with somebody I think you need to know, and or I do a deep dive into something that I think is pertinent. Thursdays, distressed condo market with Condo Capitalism. Friday, wrap up the week with a bull versus bear discussion. Myself and a guy called Daniel Hernandez over at Compass Real Estate. The name of that podcast is called Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. If you're watching this live, that means you're going to see all the information free. Once the podcast is over, we will go ahead. We will edit it quickly. We're going to edit it for sound. We'll edit it for look. We will then make it available on demand. However, if you want to watch it on demand, you're going to have to remember the Miami Condo Investing Club. We're creating a community for those people who are interested in condos. They want straightforward information. They don't want the sugarcoating. They don't want the hyperbole of what a lot of sell-side agents tell you. 1,000 people a day, gateway to Latin America, trees grow to the moon. No. We're not going to give you that. We're going to give you the straight information. We will give you the way to sort of figure out what's happening, what's not happening. Doesn't matter if you're a DIY buyer doing it yourself. Doesn't matter if you're a buyer working with a broker. Does not matter if you are a listing agent and can't sell your property. Doesn't matter if you're a lender, put money on the street, or a regulator, and or even a gadfly who's curious about the information. Any and all of them are welcome to join the Miami Condo Investing Club if you want real-time, straightforward information about what's going on in the condo market. Because again, you're watching it live, so this is all free. After the fact, it'll be available on demand, but only for members of Miami Condo Investing Club. Go to miamicondo.club in order to get more information. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to get started. And basically from this point forward, on the on-demand, it's going to be behind a paywall. But because you're tuning in live, you're going to see it all for free. So let's go ahead and share our screen. Best place we're going to start off with is with that zip code. Remember, we're putting together the condo rating agency. We pulled data from the state of Florida. What do we find? 28,000 condo associations, state of Florida, 67 counties with 1.6 million units. Tri-County area, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. What do you got down here? You got about 13,000 associations with 760,000 units. Of those, 67% are going to be vintage condos, at least 30 years old or older. That number is greater than 500,000 vintage condos. Way to sort of consider it. Whenever you think about a condo, think about 1.5 people per condo. That means 750,000 people potentially are living in vintage condos. Why are vintage condos on the radar? Because of Surfside, because of what happened 5 years ago. That morning, 1:20 in the morning or something, the tower goes down. All these people die. Everything changes. So it's important to understand where you are living, important to understand what is necessary from the association in order to make sure that there's not a repeat of what we saw before. So vintage condos are the ones that are really on the, the ones being targeted. Those are the ones that are going to come with big special assessments. That building's up to 4 stories, 25 grand. That building is 5 to 14, $65,000, 15 stories or more, $100,000. Association gives you a year to pay. You don't pay, they're going to foreclose. And or the association, if everybody sort of, rubbing their nickels together, they could go ahead and take out a loan. That loan's typically going to come from a private lender. Lenders out there are charging 9, 10, 11% interest. So the cost of condo living has gone up significantly. So as part of our condo rating agency, one of the aspects that comes up from state records is zip code. And that's what we're looking at today. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull up a zip code map of Miami-Dade County. We'll drill down so you all get kind of a sense. And then from there, we will go to what is the breakdown of condos in Bell Harbor, in Bay Harbor Islands, and in Surfside. After that, we'll follow up with what's going on in the marketplace, the overall condo market, as well as the vintage condos. And then we will give you an idea as to how you might be able to go into a market where there's a lot of uncertainty. We use the 1% rule, the same rule that's used by hard money lenders or private lenders, which is a nicer way to sort of say it. That's the way they're marketing themselves right now. But we'll walk you through it. We'll help you understand what is going on in this marketplace 5 years out from that disaster, that tragedy on the Barrier Island in Miami-Dade County on 87th Terrace and Collins Avenue. So go ahead, and I'm going to share my screen right now. Let's pull it up. We're going to start off with the zip code.